Well, around here we have tomatoes that are growing beautifully, but we need to bear in mind that the spider mites are on our way. So in a minute I'll give you some tips on how to control those. Although these tomatoes look very, very healthy right now, I'm doing a little bit of preventive maintenance. I'm spraying both the top of the leaf and the underside with insecticidal soap. Now, spider mites are something that I think finishes off tomato plants quicker than any other insect in Oklahoma. Although tomatoes in Oklahoma get their share of diseases, the most frustrating pest we come across in the summertime for control is spider mites. Caterpillars are pretty easy to keep a watch on and control, but spider mites can sneak in before you know it and take over a planting. And so I'm spraying these with insecticidal soap. It is the safest material that we can use for spider mite control on tomatoes in Oklahoma. And right now for home gardeners it's probably one of the more effective ones since Kelthane is no longer on the market. Now with insecticidal soap, remember, it has absolutely no residual value. It's strictly a contact method of controlling spider mites. It's a soap that smothers them when it's first sprayed on. Therefore, it must be repeated. The application must be repeated every 3 to 7 days depending on your infestation. Now with insecticidal soap, it usually comes in a fairly small container. You'll probably go through this container pretty quickly, but you don't have to worry about having a toxic chemical laying around for a long period of time. With insecticidal soap, you need to make sure that you don't use a really hard water. It's better to use what's considered a soft water for it to be most effective for some reason. I don't really understand the chemistry of it, but they tell us that on the package instructions. Again, with insecticidal soap, it not only controls spider mites, but it will also control aphids on tomatoes. Now to check for spider mites, the easiest method is to take a white piece of paper and smear it under the leaf, and if you see red streaks, that's usually a sign that you have them. Tomatoes that have spider mites usually take on a pale or bronzy appearance, and if you look up close, you'll see a little bit of webbing and some tiny insects on the undersides. Fortunately, these tomatoes don't have spider mites yet. Now with tomatoes and marigolds, which are another spider mite prone plant, we tend to see the plants coming down with them when we get into the heat of summer, when the plants get stressed. Therefore, this would be a good time if you are facing spider mite problems to start spraying with soap, but also mark your calendar for about 3 weeks from now in early July to break off some suckers off of tomato plants and root those in water. Just take any blooms off that are on there, break you off about a dozen suckers, root them in water in a shady place, and you'll have fresh plants to set out in August for your fall crop. And you'll probably find that those plants will be rejuvenated and will have far fewer spider mite problems than trying to maintain great big tomato plants when the real heat of August hits. So try that method too. Right now I'm going to get back to spraying these plants and mark my calendar to continue spraying them on through the summer to try to keep spider mites at bay.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.